Should have rethought of this humid outside compared to the inside air conditioning. I think I made a bad decision.
Okay, we are up.
All right. Well, welcome everyone. I'll call the General Committee meeting of Barrie City Council to order. Welcome to our virtual General Committee meeting, as we have been doing since the middle of March. Associated with the order in council for the restriction on gatherings, council is dispersed. We are doing this meeting via Zoom. Also on the call, as always, are members of our senior leadership team and members of our executive management team who are available to answer questions tonight. We will, as always, start the meeting by running through the consent agenda. This is where if a member of council wishes to discuss or debate an item or move amendments, you can ask that the item be held. If an item is not held here at General Committee tonight, it is deemed to be approved on consent, and that means it goes forward to City Council, which in this case will be next Monday, the 29th, for final consideration. So we have no reference advisory or special committees. Of course, those committees have not started meeting yet again. We do have a number of staff reports tonight. The first staff report on tonight's agenda is with regards to Georgian Drive bicycle lanes. Anybody wish to hold that? Seeing none, that is approved. The next item is with regards to the Dunlop Street corridor improvements from Ferndale Drive to Ann Street. This is a municipal class environmental assessment. Anyone wish to hold that? No. Okay, that is approved on consent, and that is the preferred design solution for the reconstruction of the Dunlop interchange and the intersections either side of it and Dunlop Street itself. So that has been given tentative approval by General Committee and will go forward next week to Council for final approval. The next staff report on the agenda is with regards to the pedestrianization of Dunlop Street between Mulcaster and Clapperton. Does anyone wish to hold this item?
Hold, please.
Held by Councillor Harris. Okay, and Councillor Aylwin will get you when that item comes up. The next item is the COVID-19 Barrie Recovery Action Plan. Councillor Kungl and Councillor McCann. I think I saw Councillor Kungl first, but we will discuss that one. Thank you for holding that. The next item, staff report, is the extension of the loading zone parking standard for downtown Barrie. No holds. Oh, yes, Councillor McCann. Okay. Held by Councillor McCann. The next item is a funding request for various infrastructure projects. Anybody wish to hold this item? Okay, seeing none, that is approved on consent. The next item is with regards to affordable housing on surplus city-owned properties. Next steps to be taken. Can I ask somebody to hold that one for me? Or Councillor Thompson, if you want to hold that yourself. Okay, or Councillor Thompson. The next item is with regards to non-resident waterfront paid parking and the temporary suspension of paid parking in the downtown. Councillor McCann. Held by Councillor McCann. Finally, we have one item for discussion put on by myself. It's a confidential potential acquisition of property matter.
Hold, please.
Held by Councillor Ripma. Thank you very much. Okay, we have a number of matters to discuss tonight, members of General Committee, and just in the event that we are still discussing these items at about 20 to 7, maybe 25 to, my intention would be to recess General Committee at that point because Planning Committee does need to start at 7. So if we're still talking at 25 to 7, we'll take a recess, we'll do Planning Committee, and then we will convene again as General Committee after Planning Committee is concluded in the hopes of getting through that tonight. So the first item that was held was the pedestrianization of Dunlop Street between Mulcaster and Clapperton. It was held by Councillor Harris. Councillor Aylwin, before we begin, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. I will not be participating in the discussion or the vote on this issue as my father owns a business in this section of Dunlop Street.
Okay, thank you. Madam Clerk, has Councillor Aylwin's potential conflict been recorded?
Yes, Mayor Lehman, it has.
Thank you very much. Councillor Jim Harris, over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. I'd like to put on the floor as written, and I can speak to that. Just one key item. It might be a little premature, but in consultation with Ms. Cook, and I just wanted to raise a highlight. Certainly, the pedestrianization of the downtown is an exciting opportunity for the downtown BIA, and we want to get this right and take full advantage. And one of the items that's come up is understanding different permutations of how the downtown would be closed, how effective that would be, and then the costs associated with this, whatever item that is decided to be chosen. So the one item that I wanted to highlight was item 5, and just it talks about a 50% up to $10,000 amount. And at this point, respectfully, the BAA doesn't have a full understanding of the costing of the different methods that are being considered to close the downtown, whether it be certain days and how many times it would require closing, opening. And that's a really important part of the plan. I know the group who's doing that is working really hard to make it effective, and there's a decision coming forward on Thursday, I believe. And I know Councilor Morales can correct me if I've got a little bit of the detail not exact. So just wanted to put up there that it's a little premature for us to determine the full amount. There might be a request to adjust or amend that moving forward, and maybe I'll leave it there for, oh, my screen's moving. Sorry, I lost my screen. I've got a presentation up there all of a sudden. So I just want to put that on the floor. Maybe others will comment, but that was the initiation for wanting to just have that highlighted for people. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Harris. Councillor Kungle.
Thank you. Through Mayor Lehman to Councillor Harris. I held the next item relating to the economic recovery plan, but it ties into the downtown BAA and the budget presented in this. So my understanding through the staff report is that $10,000 you're referencing has been defined within the details to be cleanup, operations, maybe some staffing, but doesn't touch marketing and communications. I recall previous conversations that we had when this was being referred back to today's meeting that was a particular interest around marketing this to draw individuals to the downtown. Further, there's another budget around the economic recovery around businesses that ties to $35,000 as a cost amount. I wasn't sure when you're referring to perhaps true costs, Jim, if this was specific to added costs that will appreciate marketing and advertisement, or is this really just cost still within the same scope of more of the technical facilities, operations, and human resources?
Thank you, Councillor Congo. Let me just I'll pull up my, and I misrepresented. It actually is paragraph 4. And it's just really to highlight that paragraph talks about logistics related to supporting the road closure and the additional cleanup. Grateful again that there's a contribution from the city to support this opportunity and this effort to do this. We're just not at that point sorting out, because we were looking at a variety of different options, and certainly to meet the needs of the downtown community, which are varied. And what came about was the potential of a hybrid open close, but the amount of open and closures is a cost for each time. So we just don't have that fully vetted yet. So that was really about the logistics around road closure and the associated cleanup with that function. Hope that answers your question.
Kind of does. Can you confirm that there's then this is the final at least lens from a budgetary standpoint, although the $10,000 may be adjusted depending on when that's refined, but there is not an ask coming forward to support marketing and advertising?
Sorry, I was playing with my machine there. Yeah, that particular item is around logistics and with that pedestrianization piece. So it is logistics focused. I don't have, and maybe Councilor Morales might have some color to add to anything else related to marketing and such, but no, that specifically is related to, there's different options for closing, and each closure costs, it costs per closure and opening. So we have to be able to determine which method we're going to use. That'll then assess the cost for the logistics on the closure, but that's not about marketing and promotion.
Okay, Councillor Kungle, is your interest in how that is being funded and how much we're anticipating in terms of cost?
It is. So I understand the scope of the section 4 around that being specific. Just want to understand, because we do have a budget interest coming forward on another topic around economic recovery that ties to $35,000 for marketing and advertising. And I would think there'd be some like interest. So I can speak to that separately. Really just want to confirm, will the BIA be presenting an ask separate and apart from this $10,000? That will be to support marketing and advertising? Or is this the only ask we're seeing, although the amount may be refined? Is that clarify?
Yep. So Councillor Morales or Councillor Harris, are you aware whether the BIA board will be asking for additional funding for marketing? Councillor Morales?
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. Through you to Councillor Kungle, that's what we're trying to find out. We should have an answer by next week. What the BIA doesn't want to do is not have an accurate number and then make it seem like we didn't ask for the appropriate amount, or make it seem like we asked for more. You touched based on a good point earlier in terms of shutting down the barriers. Every time we shut it down, there's a cost to it. That we're probably going to get very efficient at doing that. So the first time we shut it down, we're probably going to put too much labor to it or not enough labor. And then we're going to find more efficient ways. I'll give you an example with the speed bumps. Our speed bumps have evolved over the last 6 years in how we do it. So it's going to be a bit of an evolution. I know that council at the end of the day still needs a number. We need a little more time to get you that number. But obviously, as we grow and learn about pedestrianization, we're going to find better, more efficient ways to do it. And hopefully, while the numbers might change in terms of how much budget we need, we will make sure that the BI provides an explanation to council as to how we adjust it every time we shut it down. Because I hope that we better be learning something every time we do a shutdown, because otherwise we're not reflecting well.
Okay, I would just note, in the interests of time and clarity, I guess, we've got, this will receive final approval on Monday, but paragraph 3 authorizes city staff to execute the associated road closures and communications with the approval of the CAO and executive management team. So maybe I will just go to our CAO, who may punt to someone else, to say, is there an additional ask for communications funding that's anticipated to be associated with this, in the near future, Mr. Prowse, or over the summer?
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. Through you to members of General Committee. It's my understanding there is no additional ask. This is part of the ongoing partnership with the BIA to offset some of the operating costs and the amenities that might be required or envisioned as part of the pedestrianization of Dunlop Street.
Okay. Councillor Kungle, does that
Thank you. Yeah.
address? Okay.
Yes.
Councillor Morales, I think I saw you indicate, was that to speak to this, or did you wish to speak to the item that's on the floor?
It was just to answer clarification of Councillor Kungle, nothing more.
Okay, great. Are there others who wanted to speak to the motion on the floor? Okay, seeing, Councillor Thompson, yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lehman, to other Councillor Jim Harris or Sergio Morales. Wouldn't the marketing of the BIA be in the responsibility of the BIA, that they wouldn't come to council for the ask of marketing? You know, outside of the BIA, we have other businesses, Georgia Mall up that end and in the south end as well. I understand the levy they pay and stuff, but wouldn't that marketing be the responsibility of the BIA and not the responsibility of council?
Either one of you wish to answer? Councillor Morales, you're indicating, go ahead.
Great question, Councillor Thompson. The unique thing about a downtown area, it's that it's essentially that hybrid partnership. We talked about a meeting ago where I kind of kept ratifying, okay, who's the lead and who's the support group. It's very gray area. One reason why obviously the downtown BIA has the mandate from its existence to market the commerce, activities, and well-being of the downtown. So they definitely have an involvement. The reason why the city would also have an involvement is pedestrianization is kind of a marketing tactic, but it's also an infrastructure project, right? Pedestrianization wouldn't really have happened as well had we not kind of done the work and extended the sidewalks. And that's really a capital project. So an infrastructure project, no matter if it's on Huronia or on Dunlop, is City of Barrie. That's the business of the City of Barrie. So my answer is, it's to me, I interpret it as a together partnership. I don't want to say 50-50 partnership, but definitely both parties involved, especially because pedestrianization was spurred by many things, but one of those things being infrastructure, which is the sole responsibility of the city and not the BIA.
Councillor Thompson?
The infrastructure and stuff was to allow development in the downtown. The beautification was just, while we were there, two birds, one stone. But the actual pedestrianization of the downtown is to drive foot traffic to the downtown, which doesn't help all the other commerce around the city. So that's why I'm asking, shouldn't the marketing of the pedestrianization, which benefits the businesses in the downtown and not in the surrounding areas, shouldn't be the responsibility of council?
I think that really...
Sorry, Councillor Ross. Councillor Thompson, I guess this is discussion that you're interested in the perspective of our board members here, Councillor Morales and Councillor Harris. Yeah, okay, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Morales.
Sorry, I should have touched base with you. Mayor Lehman, through you to Councillor Thompson. I really think that's up to City Council. So if you want to get my perspective, Councillor Thompson, I kind of gave you a middle of the road wishy answer, but I tried to kind of explain my logic. I think it really comes down to this council here. I think it comes down to the board of the BIA, and I think it comes down to City Council's strategic plan. When we made a strategic plan, we said, a vibrant downtown, and we had certain metrics. So that's unique. We can give another example. I believe in the revitalization of the Allendale train station in the area, but some might say that that maybe the Allendale neighborhood groups could look after it. Now they don't get a levy, they don't have monies. But I know they're just as passionate as much as the next group. So it's one of those things that I try not to look for the divisions. I try to look to see how both parties can come together. But I think that's a more wholesome discussion as to where we want to go from this.
Councillor Harris, did you want to add?
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. Actually, I appreciate the advertising we're getting right now from Councillor Thompson for the downtown. So thank you, Councillor Thompson. Just to say, and I held this just out of respect for the route. Like, we don't have the number yet, but the BIA will have the number Thursday, so it'll be ready for Monday at council to be clearly either be set forward for the council to decide on. So this ask wasn't about marketing. It's about the structure and the requirements to get this exciting opportunity off the ground and happening in a really effective way. And so, again, BIA really appreciates that offer that came from city staff to say, listen, here's a tool, post-COVID recovery, if you'd like to utilize this to open and close the downtown, to help activate that brand new streetscape that we have, and that will be finished very shortly. So it's a great opportunity, partnership, and this was about just the nuts and bolts of closing and opening that and the costs associated with it, which our model, when we had the ask provided to us, there's an assumption it could have been a close at once, open at once, that's it. But that's not the model that we're going with. So the costs of opening and closing could be multiples of opening and closing, not just it closes in, middle of July and opens in the middle of September. That's not the model. So that's where the, determining the costs is associated with. So I hope that answers the question, but thank you for the advertising for the downtown, and glad to see downtown is open and ready for business.
Okay, I'll go back to Councillor Thompson. You good? Okay. All right. Any other discussion on this item, members of General Committee? Okay, seeing none, I will call the question. Please indicate those in favor. Are any opposed? None. That carries unanimously. Okay, the next item that was held is the COVID-19 Barrie Economic Recovery Action Plan. Councillor Kungle, I had you holding that item, and then Councillor McCann. Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lehman, perhaps to Ms. Schlichter. And it's building off the past conversation. So the segue that I really wanted to identify was knowing that the BIA was coming with some costs specific to opening and closing and did not reference marketing and communications. On page 5, number 30 of the Economic Recovery Plan, it references $32,000 of an ask that we would be considering that would be focused on marketing and communication. And knowing that there's an interplay of business promotion, both by the BIA in the downtown, particularly around the pedestrianization, but also much more broader than the downtown. Can you tell me or identify to council if that is global dollars for communication and marketing, or is the BIA taking care of their own? And this is more to enhance downtown recovery, business recovery, that's either global or outside of the BIA. Just looking to understand when we get asks, what dollars are covering which initiatives from business, communication, and marketing.
Ms. Schlichter.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman, through to Councillor Kungle. The 32,000 requested is a global approach. So it's looking at citywide initiative. We certainly will be working with organizations like Careers in Barrie, BIA, where we can leverage each other's marketing to support and champion the message around shopping local, supporting our local businesses, but it is very much intended on a global basis.
Thank you. I just wanted to be mindful of that. Should there be an additional ask that comes forward that covers marketing and communications and understanding of what else we might be supporting for businesses.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Kungle. Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. If you don't mind my directness and frankness, when I first read this report, I was not happy at all. I felt there was a lot of sizzle, maybe not a lot of steak, and I had quite a few conversations around City of Barrie with a lot of business owners, and I was feeling their frustration. And I kind of want to publicly maybe just let staff know that it probably was an overreaction. It probably was a frustration, because I think that we as a community are frustrated and we're looking for answers that just simply aren't there. And I just want to say that the plan presented in front of us was done, thoroughly. It's got a lot of good talking points. I do want to have a lot more clarity with phase 1, which I will do offline to save time. Just some detail in the questions, and I may or may not bring some amendments next week. So I just want to clear the air with that, because there was a lot of healthy discussion, and I got to say I maybe wasn't as supportive of city staff as maybe I should have been, and that was maybe a reaction to my frustrations. Just want to put that out there. So maybe a couple questions for Stephanie Schlichter, Mayor Lehman.
Sure, go ahead.
Stephanie, you do have in your plan that you'd like to have a $50,000 price tag attached to this. I got to be honest, I thought that was really low. Could you maybe, I read the report, obviously 18 on culture and on marketing is the rest, but can you give me a little more detail on how you arrived at the 50,000?
Through you, Mayor Lehman, to Councillor McCann, thank you for the question. Invest Barrie has been leveraging a lot of its existing budget. We've been deferring and reallocating our existing budgeted funds in an attempt to remain fiscally responsible. This amount that we're asking for is truly an initial amount and an initial ask for us to immediately act on some of the initiatives that address the key themes, which is getting that marketing messaging out there and getting the resources that we need to be able to continue on with the next steps that are really going to lead us to a more robust set of actions and some likely additional asks heading into phase 2. So this was very much step 1 of a follow-up step to come forward.
Okay, I've got
Nope, not sure what happened there. Go ahead, Councilor McCann.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Lehman. So maybe I'll jump to my third question because it does talk about phase two. I know you don't have a crystal ball, but with your best insights, what do you see recovering, and what is the outcome you'd like to see? This time in September when you're discussing phase two to council.
Mayor Lehman, through you to Councillor McCann. Phase two will really focus on the impacts to business as a result of stage two opening. We're really looking to assess the actions from a tourism perspective. That group is still assessing their recovery planning. We've got some digital initiatives that are coming forward, demand for PPE, and really the emerging needs of businesses and gaps as a result of moving to stage two and the emerging health regulation that goes with it. So we really want to deliver more comprehensive programming. We identified a handful of sectors that need a deeper dive, and that is what we intend to do and come back with.
Okay, so are we looking at more theory or more action or a bit of both?
Through you, Mayor Lehman, to Councillor McCann, the intent will that it will continue to be action driven. Okay,
that's good to hear. Very good to hear. And maybe a bit about the process of phase one. How involved was the business community when you reached out to people? How motivated were they to help? Obviously, they were frustrated like the rest of us. Can you give a census of how the City of Barrie's business community came together to help you, the City of Barrie, put together phase one?
Through you, Mayor Lehman, to Councillor McCann. The consultation process, we worked very closely with our stakeholder organizations who were involved in the sectors of interest. We worked with Barrie Construction Association, Home Builders, Henry Bernick Entrepreneurship Center, Sandbox, Tourism Barrie, BIA, and Chamber. And together we identified who we thought were the best influencers. And I know I'm missing a sector, arts and culture. We also consulted with that group. But we looked for their guidance as to who they thought would best represent those sectors to come forward to get the online, or get the digital virtual in-person consultation component. And then we also had the online survey piece that they all pushed out. The key feedback that came back through that process, we moved it very quickly. We were in stage one when that consultation process occurred. So the level of uncertainty on knowing where are we going to land, what do the regulatory process look like, how to prepare myself, my employees, those were themes that came out. Encouraging consumers to feel comfortable about spending again, and patronage to shops were obviously key issues. So that confidence building piece came through. But I would say they were very appreciative overall about the consultation process. As we have more lead time into phase two, I am hoping we can expand further on that and get more feedback from more business.
Okay, so I like to talk in kind of scale of 1 to 10, 10 being like the best possible outcome. And I believe that this is a huge project that we've asked you to quarterback, Stephanie. So we're all watching, all cheering you on. But to have a successful project like this, I think you really need to build momentum and get a real successful rhythm going, right? Would you say on a scale of 1 to 10 that the business community is picking up momentum, that you're starting to get answers quicker, you're starting to maybe build on your intuition, you're starting to see things maybe a bit clearer? Are you feeling that momentum, that rhythm?
Mayor Lehman, through you to Councillor McCann. Yes, I think we are dealing with consistently evolving conditions. So being able to pivot and be responsive is where myself and my team is focused. We have put forward some items to be reactionary. And as the marketplace evolves, as we see consumer behavior, as we see regulations evolve, we are working to be responsive and work with our stakeholders on that. So yes, there is momentum. I think our businesses are focused on getting back to business, and that's where their focus is.
Okay, my last question is probably going to be based on page 39, and then I got a lot of questions to maybe ask of you during the week. So maybe I'll carve out maybe an hour of your time this week that's convenient for you. Okay, Stephanie?
My apologies, I muted myself. Through you, Mayor Lehman, to Councillor McCann, happy to give some time to have more robust conversation.
So if you just look at page 39, I just got a series of questions asked about the construction industry, because I really truly believe that the construction industry is our #1 focus to get the city of Barrie back on track. I think that the offshoots of jobs and supply chain and all that good stuff is going to be pivotal that we work on the construction industry. And so I see that you've got I think you call it the permit ambassador. I definitely would like some more information on that. I did have a question about which we can discuss during the week. Your first statement on page 39 is that you said the construction sector consultants were facilitated by our partners at Barrie Construction Association and Simcoe County Home Builders Association. Sorry for maybe my ignorance, but it's like the Pratt Homes and all of our big builders and small builders, they're all a part of that association, I'm guessing, and they all had a stake in this phase 1.
Mayor Lehman, through you to Councillor McCann, they would have put that out to their memberships, and there were certainly a mix of both our large development community and perhaps some of our what we might consider our smaller trades and such that were included in that process and in the communications from those organizations to their members.
Okay, that's good. And maybe if you go down to highlights and recommendations on page 39. You just said that reoccurring requests for the city to focus on issuing permits while preventatively avoiding bottlenecks with the development application process. Is there a fear or a concern that once phase 2 lights up, that we're going to see a lot more permits requests and there will be a bottleneck? And if so, how are we going to accommodate that so the bottleneck isn't so small?
Mayor Lehman, through you to Councillor McCann, thank you for the question. And certainly we did hear through the construction industry, and we all identify that this sector is a key economic factor in recovery. And certainly they wanted to make sure that as the economy opened up, the permits were being processed. I can say, and Ms. Miller may have more to add, but I can say that development services, building services, planning, they continue to operate, process, all permits through the entire COVID process. So they are currently not facing a backlog and are prepared to keep the permit process moving forward. So I think that's a very good positive. We've communicated that back to both organizations. And two of the other actions through the planning or through the action plan is we continue to focus myself, building services and development services through planning. We meet on a regular basis and we'll be meeting on a regular basis to look at what's coming down the pipe, support resource planning so that we aren't seeing those backlogs. They will have their own contingency plans to deal with that. And I don't want to speak on their behalf, but we can add more information to that. And further, we're also working to meet with those that are looking to develop at the front end so that they are better prepared and submitting complete applications. They have the information, complete applications, get through the process more efficiently.
Well, Ms. Lichter, I got through you, Mayor. I got to thank you for all your answers. They were extremely detailed and well thought out. That tells me that you're really on the ball. And as I kind of stated in the beginning, Mayor Lehman, if you give me maybe 30 more seconds, you know, that this is really one of probably the hardest tasks we've actually given you. And I think you're doing a great part. And if there's anything that I can do as council member, please reach out. And, you know, I think you said it best today as we're in this together and we're doing this together. So way to go.
Thanks, Councillor McCann. Others who wish to comment on this item? Okay, seeing no other requests to speak, just a couple of things I wanted to highlight at the point we're at as well. And thank you for your comments, Councillor McCann. You know, this plan was put together in a little over a month, barely 4 weeks time. And when you back that up for the internal approval process for a staff report, it was well less than that. Ms. Schlichter and her team consulted with businesses organized into sort of 6 areas of our economy. The number of businesses consulted was in the many hundreds through all of the partner associations. And they really used the power of the relationships that have been built between the city, the Chamber of Commerce, Councillor McCann, you mentioned the Construction Association and the home builders, Tourism Barrie and the BIA. And that's not even talking about the Burnick Center and the Sandbox and the other government organizations who reached out as well. So, this was a giant listening exercise. And as I read the 40-page plan here, I got the sense that listening exercise, which I think resulted in, I think it was about 45 or 50 specific items, has been translated into some early initial steps. And there's some that are going to take more time to develop over the course of the summer in conjunction with each of the sectors. Councillor McCann, you also touched on the permits and the applications, and this was so key from the beginning. And I really have to compliment Andrea Miller and her staff, because even only just a few days into COVID, when our staff were dispersing to start working from home, the intent from the very beginning was to keep the processes moving. And what's been able to occur in terms of crash modernizing our application process, Mr. Prowse has told us in the past we were already doing this, but COVID has accelerated it. And the result now is you can apply for a whole bunch of permits and applications that you couldn't previously. And that process of digitizing our procedures continues. And that produces efficiencies in terms of how we process permits and applications. Still not perfect, still examples of where there are bottlenecks or struggles. But the effort to sort of deal with the changes that COVID has caused, but to move digital, which gives us long-term benefits in terms of how we respond to the business community, the construction industry, and the development industry, I think has been great. A couple of other pieces that were in here. I mean, that theme of digital capacity, of course, that through Digital Main Street was something that our small business center and the Sandbox in Burnick took on also in the first week of the pandemic in mid-March by expanding the Digital Main Street program. But in this plan are two more initiatives. Both designed to help with online shopping and shopping local. So the Burnick Center ran a competition for submissions for building a local marketplace. And the winners there are actually from Kitchener-Waterloo, a platform that is now going to be exported to a number of other communities across the province. And that's a really great example of one of our partners in conjunction with city staff trying to take an opportunity, which actually came out of a call with the Simcoe Entrepreneurs Network. That's who sort of raised this initially and said we should have a small business platform that can help people shop local. That challenge, I'm just looking here, the Hey Local platform, I've forgotten the name of it, but it's Hey Local out of Kitchener-Waterloo that won that competition and is now being deployed. And that is a partnership that works as well with Spotify, which is great. And then of course, we teamed up with Shop Here to expand Digital Main Street, and that's the Google and Microsoft platform with MasterCard. So some real big names behind these initiatives, and hopefully that will translate into capacity for our local businesses to help buy local and supply those or create those opportunities. I wanted to note the Chamber's work on local supply of PPE. We saw an example of that with the downtown BIA, the 600 face shields that were donated. And there's tremendous work being done by South Medic and other companies in Barrie to produce PPE, and others who've switched over to producing COVID-related materials as part of the Ontario Challenge. But the effort in this plan is to try and help Barrie companies buy local when they're buying PPE. And that makes it easier, quicker, and it creates the ability to keep the dollars in the community. One of the really interesting ideas I thought was in here, members of General Committee, and I think there'll be some further discussion around this, but the idea of sort of expanding the outdoor use, the use of public space to allow for business activities in a distanced way. The opportunity here, for example, for yoga classes in the park, that was suggested to us, whether it's gyms or other types of businesses, for example, that are still closed because they're in phase 3. For us to be able to use our public spaces and say, you know what, we know parks aren't for commerce or business activity long-term, but as part of COVID recovery, as part of helping people be active, as part of giving people opportunities to shop and buy local, can we use more of our public spaces for that purpose? And I think that is, as noted, is not something that is ready to go today, but I'm excited about the potential to get that going potentially over the summer during the good weather. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention, aside from thanking staff for all their work, because there is a team here in Invest Barrie who did so much work in consulting with so many different businesses, is really around the partners. And if you go to the very last page of the document that's in front of you, members of General Committee, literally the back page, you see the Barrie Chamber, Georgian College's Burnick Center, the Small Business Center, Downtown Barrie, the Sandbox, Tourism Barrie, and the Construction Association of the Home Builders. Those are the members of the Economic Support Task Force, and they've been at this for 3 months, helping us out to try and reach out to the broader business community and provide channels back. There's still obviously more work to do. There is the potential for more significant projects, I think, as the process continues. But all of this effort over the last 3 months we've seen in Barrie around economic support and understanding the needs has come because of these partners' efforts, and we really owe them a debt of thanks. So I appreciate actually some of your comments, Councillor McCann, in that I think the next phase of this plan has the opportunity to be even more ambitious in some ways. I mean, the city's financial capacity is not such that we can offer the direct support to business that the federal and or provincial governments can, but we can make targeted investments that really support the growth of our key sectors and help with recovery. And I look forward to seeing those in the future. But in the meantime, I'll echo the thanks to Ms. Schlichter and her team. And with that, unless there are any more comments or questions, I will call the question on the recovery plan. If you could indicate those in favor of the motion on the floor. Anybody opposed? None? That carries. Okay, thank you very much, members of the General Committee. The next item was held by Councillor McCann, and that is the extension of the loading zone parking standards for downtown Barrie. Councillor McCann, over to you.
No, I made a mistake. I was all good in that one. Sorry about that.
Okay, do you want to just put it on the floor as printed then?
Put on the floor as printed then.
Okay, any comments or questions from members of General Committee? Okay, seeing none, those in favor of the item on the floor as printed. Any opposed? None? That carries. Thanks, Councillor McCann. Next item that was held held by Councillor Thompson. That's the affordable housing on surplus city-owned properties. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. I'll put the item on the floor as printed. Just had a question. The parking lot to the north of Vespra, that is not city property, correct?
And I think I can probably answer that, but if we're talking about the north side of Vespra, that's owned by Barrie by the Bay. It's parking for, yeah, Barrie by
That's for the building. I'm in support of this affordable housing and stuff in the conversation that we had this afternoon, Mayor Lehman, with eliminating Vespra to expand the lot size that we would allow. I would love to see a mixed use of affordable housing, market housing, and maybe capturing some housing for our most vulnerable in our seniors, the supportive housing, to have a kind of a mixed use opposed to just an affordable housing block with one of each, where I think that's what we have to look at as a healthy community, and not just one type, multiple types. So I'll just, that were some comments.
Thanks, Councillor Thompson. And you saved me getting out of the chair and giving it to the deputy mayor, because I'd actually intended to move an amendment on that. I will, and in support of that, at this point, I'll just ask Mr. Nolan if he can screen share, because it's always dangerous when mayors draw lines on maps, but that's what I did, and I wanted to show you the slide. So if, Mr. Nolan, if it's possible to screen share that slide I sent you, maybe just the first one for a second, and then I'll just speak to this briefly and then go over to members of General Committee for conversation. Okay, so this is Vesper Street in Innisfil, obviously, and one of the reasons I actually wanted us to talk about this item is the staff report. It's not till you get to the appendix that it actually tells you what the address of the property is, and there's no map, which is a little unfortunate, but the appendix obviously describes it. So this is the former fire hall site. You're looking at it on Vespra number 47, and the city owns properties nearby as well. in that block. The reason I wanted to show you this, members of the General Committee, is if you look to the north, that Vesper Street road allowance has that very, very wide daylighting triangle because of the angle of the intersection with Innisfil Street. You're absolutely right, Councillor Thompson. You just look at that line that sort of bends to the north there before it connects to the edge of the road allowance for Innisfil. And, it's a big, big intersection. If we can go to the next slide, Mr. Thompson, or Mr. Nolan. So this is the mayor drawing a line on a map, always dangerous. I tried to follow the property lines on the air photo, but this is what I'd be talking about, similar to what you were mentioning a minute ago there, Rob. The Vesper Street road allowance in front of the fire station, that's all we're talking about here. But because of that weird configuration, it's much larger than a typical road allowance. The reason I'd be interested in this is twofold. Number one, this section of Vespera, there are no driveways with the exception of the entrance to that parking lot on the north side, which if you look at the northeast point of the little red line there, that could potentially be realigned to Sanford Street, which would probably be safer anyway. But the other reason here is anybody who's tried to drive that little section of Vespera from Sanford to Innisfil, it is almost impassable. The road is more than a roller coaster. It has failed completely. And so we'll be saving ourselves some real cost on road reconstruction if we were to consider the idea of conjoining these parcels. So I'll just say now that, I think we could, by way of amendment to this motion, direct our staff to explore the possibility of closing Vespera from Sanford to Innisfil and joining that parcel to the subject properties for the purpose of a larger development. And I'll leave it there and allow the discussion, or move on to the discussion now. I'd be prepared to move that amendment, or Councillor Thompson, if you want to get it on the floor. But Councillor Morales, I think I saw you indicate.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. Councillor Thompson's point about having a more mixed use, possible end use for the property. I agree from a concept perspective, like that would be the optimal goal. My only concern would be that we have to have a willing buyer and industry partner to finance, likely will be anywhere between a $5 to a $70 million project, depending on density, and that they can get backing and that they're willing to get behind it. Developers usually with sites like this for the type of low income and mixed with market rent uses in lands that are in this area, it's not an easy project. So if they're willing to take the risk, they might not be willing to take the risk with that kind of mixed use. For them, it might be easier to get financing, build it out as a one-stop shop, one kind of design that they've done it before, they've done it elsewhere. So I would just caution, I'm not against it. In a perfect world, we'd get something a little mixed use. I think it'd be better integration to the neighborhood. It'd be better for the residents living there. It'd be better for everybody. It's just smart urban planning. I just think that I wouldn't want to lose out on any opportunities of industry people who are looking at the site and say, you know what, I can do one of those four things and I can do it really well, but I'm not taking my risk on four. I think at the end of the day, we want to see something good done, but we definitely want to see something done and not be waiting decades for it. So that would be my only caution about that one. And again, we'll see what we get. But I really like the amendment. Sorry, if it's to the amendment as well, love the amendment. Very creative. And yeah, I'd love to hear from staff on that one.
Yeah, okay. Technically, we don't have the amendment on the floor yet because neither Councillor Thompson or I have moved it, but maybe we should now. Rob, is that something you're comfortable moving to start discussing? Okay. So, I mean, what I had envisioned, and let me know if this is acceptable, Councillor Thompson, is a new paragraph 5 to the motion, which would direct staff to explore closing Vespera between Sanford and Innisfil for the purpose of conjoining this the road allowance with the subject property for redevelopment.
In that paragraph, should we add the mixed use, so market, or is that just something we'll wait back from staff to Councillor Morales's point, like, and just leave it open and see what interest we get from the development community?
Well, my advice procedurally would be that actually that probably is a second separate amendment. And the reason would be that I think the motion as written envisions us talking first to housing providers. You know, it may be that those providers come back and say, you know, if you did this mix of market and social, you'd get the best result, or they might not. So you could leave the motion as it is. And I think the first thing that would happen would be our staff would talk to the actual social housing providers. So it's probably okay as is. That'd be my advice.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That's perfect.
So Madam Clerk, we've got the wording there? I can provide it afterwards, but you got most of it. Okay, members of the General Committee, you're clear about the amendment that's on the floor? Okay, discussion on the amendment. Councillor Aylwin.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. I will be supporting the amendment. I think this could be the least of our worries on this property because we know there are significant environmental concerns on the site. So I just want to, you know, temper expectations a little bit here because we need to make sure that the site can be cleaned up at an appropriate expense. And on the mix of housing piece, I know it's not in the amendment, but I want to just quickly speak to it. Typically, nonprofit and cooperative housing, social housing, there's a mix of 60% rent geared to income and 40% market rent units. So that's the great thing about social housing is you get that mix built right in. So hopefully that's something that our staff can work with the providers on, but I will be supporting the amendment. Thanks for putting that forward.
Okay, on the amendment, further discussion? No? Jim? Sorry, Councillor Harris? Jim Harris?
Thank you, Mary Lane. This may be a very simple point, but I thought it might just be, as I was sitting on it, I would ask it. In the, I'll just go to the document. In the document, they reference on paragraph 3, staff to engage social and nonprofit housing providers. And then later, it mentions in item B, 3B, funding grants and government assistance are currently or soon to be available to housing providers capitalized. I just wanted, if I could, through you to the appropriate staff, get a understanding definition of what a housing provider is, just so that people are watching wonder what that means, because it's not it doesn't say housing builder, there's nonprofit and social housing earlier. So I just wanted, if you could maybe give some clarity on the definition of housing provider.
Absolutely. Mr. Press or Ms. Miller, I'm not sure who wishes to answer that one.
Mayor Lehman, I'll do my best attempt at avoiding answering the question for General Committee. I think Ms. Peters is on the line somewhere, but I'm actually not sure of the legal definition of the housing provider, so I'm a little reticent to offer an opinion on it. But there is a difference between the providers of housing and developers in such as the County of Simcoe might be a housing provider, Barrie Municipal Nonprofit Housing might be a housing provider. They are not per se a developer. So if that's the question, that might be a couple of examples of housing providers as opposed to developers. Yeah,
thank you, CEO Prowse. Why I asked, I think it's important. I know for years working with Lancet Homelessness, one of the things we tried to do was encourage developers, builders to get involved in the discussions to see the benefits of and the business benefit of building affordable and supportive housing. So I just wasn't sure. I didn't want to assume it was or wasn't included in that consultation option, because I know the Alliance has spent lots of efforts in trying to even bring in developers outside of our city to say, hey, listen, we do developments that are affordable and supportive. It's good business, and it's actually a good thing to do for your community. So I wasn't sure if that was part of the motivation. And given Councilor Morales' comment about potential challenges of the mixed use and kind of more robust site, I thought that would just kind of make me think about, is that part of the consultation? So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harris. I see Ms. Peters is now on the screen. I'm not sure if she has additional information. So I thought I'd offer if she's available.
Through you, Mayor, to Councillor Harris. Yes, the intention was that we would start with the with the County of Simcoe, who is certainly the service manager in the social housing sphere, and consult with them. Our intent, though, is to cast a very broad net and to catch a potential group of whether it's developer or providers, private sector, social provider that could work to design a process. I mean, we're going to be coming back to council in any event to describe before we go out what is the process that we will be proposing. But social housing and affordable housing starts with the county, and that's where the government funding is coordinated. So that was our intention, was to start with them, and then to expand the net of providers and builders and developments that might be able to assist us with this project.
That's great. Thank you, Ms. Peters, and thanks, CEO Prowse.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harris. Any further comments on the amendment? Just on the amendment, Councillor Gary Harvey.
Just a quick comment. I will support it. However, I do envision that this potentially could cause some significant traffic related issues for a few of the side streets on either side of the property. I'm obviously open to seeing what the staff report looks like, and I am super happy to hear Ms. Peters say that the county's going to be the first door that they knock on, because we're paying them $6.5 million a year, and I'm not quite sure over the last decade that we've actually got our bang for our buck, and we've seen some significant projects in all of our bordering municipalities, and I think in the long run we've actually been funding some of that from our city. So I am glad to hear they are the first door that will get knocked on.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Harvey. On the amendment, this is paragraph 5 to close, investigate closing the right of way and joining the properties. Any further comments on that amendment? Okay, if not, I'll call the question. Those in favor of the amendment, please indicate. None opposed, that's unanimous. On the main motion as amended, further comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor of the motion as amended? Any opposed? None. That carries. Thank you, members of the General Committee. It's a good discussion. The next item that was held is the non-resident waterfront paid parking and temporary suspension of paid parking. It's a staff report. It was held by Councillor McCann. Councillor McCann.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. I maybe want to start off by, through you, Mayor Lehman, maybe asking Wendy Cook a procedural question.
Sure, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Cook, just out of curiosity, do we have the power to set fines, or is that something that's done through the province?
Ms. Cook.
We have to make application to the province to set specific fines. It's right in the recommendation here that the Enforcement Services Branch make an application to the Ministry of the Attorney General. You set the fines.
Okay, that was in the staff report?
Yes, it's on.
Oh, I apologize. You know what? I missed that one. Sorry about that. So what I'd like to do is I would like to put an amendment that 4A, I understand that staff would like to increase the fines from $3 to $5. I would like to increase it for out-of-towners residents only from $3 to $10 per hour.
Okay, so the amendment is on the floor to increase the rate from instead of to $5 to $10 per hour, and that's in paragraph 4A. Go ahead, Councillor McCann.
Yeah, just I want to increase the 4B. So should I do it separately, procedurally, or should I put it all in one motion?
You know what? You could do it either way. Let's do them separately, just in case people think there should be a difference between those two.
Okay, sure.
But thanks so your intention will be to do B as well, and we'll do that next. Go ahead.
Okay, so just quite simply, I am getting a lot of residents communicating with me that they believe that out-of-towners are coming into our beaches and they're not spending any money. They're actually costing the city money because they're leaving the garbage. And, I just want to see some economic development happen, obviously, as we all do. And so I think that a $5 or a $2 increase just isn't enough. I think that if you're from out of town and you want to enjoy our beautiful beaches, and we know that a lot of people are not spending money, and we'll find that in our tourism master plan that's coming up in the next 2 months, that an increase per hour to $10 would be an economic boom.
Okay, on the amendment, which is to paragraph 4A to go to $10 per hour, Councillor Aylwin. I'll take a speaker's list, so those who want to speak, please indicate. Go ahead, Councillor Aylwin.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. Thank you, Councillor McCann, for putting that forward. I just have a question for staff on that. Maybe Mr. Forsyth or Ms. James Reed.
Sure, go ahead.
So why was the decision made specifically to go from 3 to 5 and 20 to 30 along the waterfront? What were the criteria in that decision, and why wasn't the decision made to go higher?
Ms. James Reed, do you want to start or punt to Mr. Forsyth?
Sure. Thank you. Through you, Mayor Lehman, to Councillor Aylwin. I'm going to ask Brent Forsyth to speak to that because he was directly involved in the strategy that was prepared.
Mr. Forsyth.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. Through yourself to Councillor Aylwin. Through our parking strategy engagement that we had late 2019 and early 2020, we had heard from various user groups. One of them being
Mr. Forsyth, you're breaking up. I don't know if you've got a mic or can stay closer to the mic, but we're having trouble hearing you.
Sorry, 1 second here. Am I any more clear now?
A little bit. Give it a go.
Sorry, am I clear now?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, sorry guys. Okay, sorry. So through our engagement on the parking strategy that occurred late 2019 and early 2020, we had done very involved engagement with various user groups. When we were looking at our municipal comparators, we knew we were on the low end in comparison. But we also didn't want to go to the highest end at that point because feedback we had received from the tourist community, just with the potential negative impact that it could have by increasing the fee too much in one setting, that it would have on the business or the economic development. And so we were planning on, as part of the parking strategy update, which was originally intended to come to council in April, the original intention was to increase it from 3 to 5 and 20 to 30. And so that's why we made that recommendation at this point, to try to get that in ahead of the summer season and help our bottom line a bit with our parking rate.
Okay, I appreciate that answer. Thank you. So sounds like it's mostly because of feedback from the tourism industry that it could be potentially harmful to that industry. I'm not actually sure where I stand on this amendment yet. So I'm interested in hearing a bit more from council. I mean, preferably, I think I would like to see a bit more engagement or consultation with our tourism sector before we make a jump like this. But I'm interested in hearing more.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Aylwin. Councillor Thompson.
Thanks, Mayor Lehman. To Mr. Forsyth, would this $10 increase, if this motion passed, just be the waterfront parking or all parking in the downtown core?
Through Mayor Lehman to Councillor Thompson, it would only be for parking at the waterfront lots, so that where there is paid parking today. So for example, it would be kind of the main area of the waterfront in and around Centennial Beach, but it would also extend to the Johnson's Beach Park, Tyndale, and Minette's Park.
And what about the parking garage on Collier being paid parking? Would that increase?
It would not. This wouldn't increase any of the parking rates. Basically, north of the marina would kind of be the line, with the exception of Johnson's Beach Park.
Right. So I'm actually in support of this because leaving the rates north of the marina at a reasonable cost it could possibly drive people to those lots, which then puts foot traffic to our downtown. Where right now we're getting the exit from Essa Road. They come with their barbecues. They have no money. They leave their garbage. They don't leave their wallets. And I would like to see the foot traffic come through the downtown. So, and I would like to see a maximum, which maybe like a $30 max. A higher. Is that what you're saying? I'll leave it at there and I'll listen for other discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Morales.
So Mayor Lehman, here I am getting ready to say, McCann, I hate your amendment. We shouldn't be charging dual fees. And Ward 5 is on fire and hits it out of the ballpark with the argument of incentives and disincentives to move traffic to the downtown core, which sounds very similar to my argument on EV charging stations the other week. Yeah, you won me over, Councillor Thompson. No, that's great. I definitely support that. The people that are price sensitive will go downtown, will move closer to downtown away from the water. And if they spend that money on our commerce, much better. And then the people that don't mind paying the extra a little bit get to enjoy it. So yeah, I was completely against this amendment. Councillor Thompson, you hit it out of the ballpark.
Thanks, Councillor Morales. Councillor Kungle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Mr. Forsyth. I too am in support of the amendment. Have heard from many residents around trying to perhaps raise the rates for individuals that might be out of town and used to paying higher rates for parking. And along with Councillor Thompson's comments, is a nice aspect around ensuring that there is still some different rates available from an affordability perspective around us enticing individuals to enjoy our lovely city. My question though is, could you confirm the following for me, that kind of embedded two questions. One, that we do see 100% of the fees that they go back into city coffers. And in addition to that, that the dollars actually go to offsetting enforcement costs. And I believe some tax rate, they don't go into parking. And that this is an initiative that was an impetus not just about COVID, but also about recovery from a cost recovery or revenue generation.
Sure. Thank you for the question through you, Mayor Lehman, to Councillor Kungle. That's correct. So this was an initiative we had planned even far before COVID was upon us, and we were planning to bring to council, as I said, with our strategy update in April, which is now planned for later this year. So definitely it was the plan all along. And I can say that 100% of the parking fees themselves go into the parking rate and fund the parking rate. And then 100% of the fines that are collected go to offset the cost of enforcement, which is part of the tax rate.
Thank you. No more questions.
Thanks, Councillor Kungle. Deputy Mayor Ward.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. I'm a little more cautious on this. My worry that is we're going to, oops, sorry, I'm getting double. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Yep. Yeah, can you hear me? My concern is that we're going to actually drive tourists away, drive people away if we charge $10 an hour. And instead of getting more revenue from the waterfront, we'll get less. I mean, our overall parking plan depends on getting some money from the waterfront. And if it's only Barrie residents using it, we're not getting any revenue from the parking. And it's like being in business and saying, I'm going to make twice as much money, I'm going to double my prices. Well, it may not bring in twice as much money because you may lose business to elsewhere. I'm not saying we don't increase it at all. I think they made a reasonable compromise at $5. We do have some businesses, tourism related businesses, things like Splash On. I'd be curious as to how many people they get. I don't know if you ever kept track of whether they get people just from Barrie or they depend on people from elsewhere. My worry is if we raise it to $10 an hour and it kills all tourism business, it'll kill the tourism related businesses we do have on the waterfront. And we hope to expand our tourism related businesses on the waterfront. I'm not sure if they're going to drive downtown to get cheaper parking and then walk back to the waterfront. I just don't know. I guess I'm a bit cautious without consulting with some of the people who depend on tourism, whether $10 is too much. I worry it's by tripling the cost, it's too much at once. Raise it to $5 this year, see if it has an effect on how much revenue we're bringing in, and then consider raising it in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Ward. Councillor McCann, I saw you, and then Councillor Jim Harris.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. I just maybe want to comment on Ward's comment. So.
Yeah, go ahead.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Deputy Mayor Ward, I definitely took that risk into consideration. I did have extensive conversations with staff on traffic, and I just don't really agree with your analogies or following through with your flow of thought. We have a premium waterfront here in Barrie, right? And anybody that was concerned about paying $5 or paying $10, I believe I've got a strong intuition and a strong clarity that the person who's concerned about spending an extra $5 per hour on parking will either drive further out, like Councillor Thompson recommended, to the parkade and walk down. That's just human nature, right? I don't believe $5 an hour is going to stop somebody from hitting our beach. We've got a unique experience, right? And I believe that the value per hour for an out-of-towner to use our stunning waterfront is worth more than $10 an hour. I think $10 an hour is suitable. And the beautiful thing is, if you have to understand Tourism Barrie, which I sit on that board, right? They would want us to pay people to park on our streets because it would increase tourism. And somebody who would want us to lower the number, it helps their cause. So therefore, I'm not sure if I confused you or gave you some clarity on that, but I don't follow your analogy, and I think that that $10 is suitable.
Okay, thanks, Councillor McCann. Councillor Jim Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Lehman. I'll be brief because my reaction was similar to Councillor McCann's with the comments that the Deputy Mayor Ward made. I do believe you consider the investments that have made in the downtown and the attraction that has become, that people who want to come will come, and I wonder if those, I don't know how much foot traffic, and if we even track how many people come from the lakeshore up to the downtown. I like the idea that Councillor Thompson suggested, that cheaper parking around the downtown would create some opportunities for people to use the downtown and shop and spend their money there. So I do like it. I think it's not overly out of scope with the comparables, and given the comparables also, distinguishing features of our downtown, our waterfront are such that I believe we are still a good value.
Thanks, Councillor Harris. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Your Worship. Originally, I was a little reluctant about supporting $10. I thought it was a little steep, but then while the discussion was going on, I started looking at some of our comparators that are adjacent to us, and actually they're sitting at like $7 an hour and actually have a daily max of 45. So when I compare what our beach front and waterfront offers in comparison to some of our neighbors, I actually think the $10 is actually in line too, because there is a lot more there. There's a lot of shops, and really anybody that's going to come, they're going to pay for the parking. Chances are they're going to be hitting the restaurants and all that. And you're always going to have that small amount that are going to walk half a kilometer to save a few dollars, but they're probably also too the types that probably are not going to be going into our restaurants and stuff. But I think this is actually very in line when you start looking at it from a comparison standpoint with some of our bordering municipalities.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Harvey. Any others who wish to comment on the amendment? Oh, sorry, Councillor Aylwin, and then back to you, Deputy Mayor Ward. I don't know who Deputy Mayor Moore is, but you'd look good as a Moore. I don't know. Councillor Aylwin.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. And thank you, Councillor Harvey, for bringing up the comparators, because that was my first question for Brent. And not that I don't trust you, Councillor Harvey, but I'd be interested to know what they found as well when they were looking at that. So what are the comparators? How does $10 compare? And the second question was around the daily rate. I know we're considering them separately, but is this something that we would want to consider together? Should it be a proportional increase in the daily rate? Is that a best practice? What would you suggest?
Mr. Forsyth.
Thank you. Mayor Lehman to Councillor Elwin, the proportion is really dependent on the municipality and what's going on there. They're kind of all over the place. You know, I can say for a very close neighbor to us, their hourly rate is up to about $10 an hour, and their daily max is $50. In other cases, you know, their hourly rate is $3 and $20. So it is very dependent on kind of the use and of the space and whatnot. So, you know, our recommendation would likely be if it was to go to $10 an hour, we would definitely be looking to increase the daily max as well, and probably in the neighborhood of $50, which I think we may hear later.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that information. I've been convinced. I think this is a great idea and could do a lot to also encourage active transportation to our waterfront, like hop on the GO train and walk down, bike down, so you don't have to cover that parking costs.
Thanks, Councillor Owen. Deputy Mayor Ward.
I won't belabor the point because I'm on the losing side of this, I can tell. But I just a couple of questions. One is I'm just trying to find in the staff report, is the Tiffin boat launch is the same price? Is that correct?
Mr. Forsyth.
Through you, Mayor Lehman to Council Ward, that is correct. It is the same price. Yes.
Okay.
There is an extra launching fee for non-residents.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other question I had was, I noticed when you're down there on a busy day, there's lots of cars on Ellen Street, Victoria Street, Vesper Street, because those people are trying to avoid, especially now, they're trying to avoid the current fees. So are we doing something about that? Because they're not included, they're free parking right now, is that right?
Through Mayor Lehman, yes, through Mayor Lehman and to Councillor Ward, that is correct. The parking strategy actually, which is when it comes back, is going to address spillover parking, not only in around the waterfront, but also around the downtown. There are some issues with that. And so as part of that larger staff report, we are planning to address that.
And that'll be when, this fall?
Yes, it'll probably be this fall. It'll likely be this fall, Q3, Q4 of this year, yes.
I'm a bit worried about places like Ellen Street because it's jammed with cars now, and it's going to be even worse. And anybody who maybe want to use Ellen Street for parking for a reason is not going to have any luck. But anyways, we'll see what happens. Thanks.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor Ward. Anyone else who wishes to speak to the amendment? Okay, I'll throw my 2 cents in. I'm going to support this too, with a couple of caveats and I guess cautions. So I'm going to support it under the assumption that we are going to have a reasonable daily limit. And the reason for that is that, you know, my office also frequently gets contacted by residents of Innisfil, Springwater, people who are Barrie people who, you know, are in a service club in Barrie, are in a business association or run a business in Barrie, but happen to live in Innisfil or Springwater. And they're very frustrated by having to pay for parking. One of the solutions, well, I should ask Mr. Forsyth, we at one point had a non-resident, a low-cost non-resident seasonal pass. Do we still have that pass, Mr. Forsyth?
Yes, we do. We still have right now it's currently at $90 for the season. But again, we would probably look at changing that fee depending on the discussion tonight.
Yeah, so that I wanted to raise that, members of General Committee, because I don't think anyone's caught that. You know, if you're going to raise the daily to 50, it's only going to take 2 days at the beach for that $90 pass to pay for itself, and then you can come for free whenever you want, so to speak. Now that was kind of the intent back when the price was less than this, because we have people who live in Innisfil and Springwater, run businesses in Barrie, participate, volunteer in Barrie, and are here frequently. In fact, to tell you the truth, I think that pass was specifically sparked by the members of the Garden Club who maintain our gardens around South Shore Center and elsewhere, but a whole bunch of their members lived in Springwater and Innisfil and were now getting dinged for waterfront parking for coming down to volunteer to clean up our gardens. So that was the workaround. And I think we should just be careful that if we're going to really jack the price, we either maintain that low cost pass, maybe up a little from 90, but we maintain that so that our frequent volunteers or others who use the waterfront, who aren't coming up from the GTA for the day and leaving their garbage or whatever it is, they're actually local residents. They just happen to be the wrong side of the boundary. The other caution is berries. I think Deputy Mayor Ward is bang on right. This is going to push a bunch of parking onto Ellen, Victoria, and the neighboring streets, because why wouldn't you park a block away for free? So if we're going to do this, which I think I'll support the amendment. I'd like to see in a way what happens. But I think we'd better be prepared to hear from those residents a lot, especially the 4 buildings on Ellen Street and the businesses in the area, and be prepared to react to that sooner than, next fall when the report comes. So with those comments, I will call the question on the amendment. So this is the $10 per hour. Those in favor of going to $10 per hour for non-residents? Okay. And 1 opposed, Deputy Mayor Ward? All right, that does pass. Councillor McCann, do you have a complimentary amendment for the daily?
I do, Mayor Lehman.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, Mayor Lehman. Your comments about keeping the daily low, I think $50 is low, and that's what I tend to do, is put an amendment to make the daily go from 20 to 50. We do have a premium waterfront, and even though I'm empathetic to groups that live around there that have businesses, I don't want to ding them. That's not who I'm really trying to make pay. It's the people that don't contribute financially to our economy is really where I'm striking. And I'm hearing from a lot of people, a lot of residents throughout the city of Barrie, that the beaches are super full. So having a daily of $50, having an hourly rate of $10, right, may get people off the beaches quicker to leave room for other people. There's only so many premium spots we have on the beach. So I think if we're going to go $10 an hour, that we would have to go to $50 an hour. And I think that Councillor Harvey, as the machine gun, researcher that he is, finding out that we've got a local community that charges $45 successfully. I think that $50 is the right amount. I have discussed this with staff, and staff, I believe we're happy. So, anyways, I'll let discussion fly if there is any, and I think $50 should be the daily. Just actually, so we're clear, I actually wanted not to have a daily. It was actually Councillor Thompson and I having a conversation that really wanted to have a daily, because I wanted to basically be $10 for the whole day, or say $10 per hour for the whole day. So, anyways, I'm done. I'm done rambling.
Okay, the amendment to go to $50, the daily rate is on the floor. I'll just direct members of General Committee. The daily rates for our comparators are in the staff report. So paragraph 11 of the staff report has the daily rates for Innisfil currently at 50, Georgina at 25, Oro Medonte at 20, Wasaga Beach at 15. And I think there are a couple of other neighbors, and they're probably towards the higher end of that range, but paragraph 11 has the comparable daily rates. Okay, so the amendment's on the floor to make the daily 50. Those who wish to comment on this amendment, please indicate. Anybody wish to comment? Nope, we're just going to call the question on that one. Fine by me. Those in favor of a $50 daily rate, maximum, sorry. And any opposed? Nobody opposed to that one, so that passes. Okay, further comments, questions, or amendments to this staff report, to the motion as amended? Okay, if none, just a couple from me. I wanted to highlight for those watching, we haven't talked about a couple of components of this. There's certainly been a lot of attention paid to, do we have people coming from out of town for the waterfront? I will actually ask staff that question, because this is a source of a huge amount of debate. People see license plate frames from Woodbridge or Toronto and assume that the people in the car are from there, not just that they bought the car there. And the flip side, of course, is you can have people who bought a car in Barrie who aren't from Barrie. So that's not the most reliable source of info. The second source of info, which is probably the far better one, is to ask people. And I do believe there was a survey conducted a few years ago, but my question to staff is, do we have any up-to-date numbers on how many people come to Barrie from out of town to use our beaches? Mr. Forsyth?
Yes, Mayor Lehman. So I wouldn't say it's overly accurate. We base it on the revenue we collect down there and make some assumptions based on some of that being paid for by residents. Our best guess is about 35% of the, I guess you call it parking demand hours or parking hours used down there are from non-Barrie residents.
Perfect. So that's really helpful because, you know, in talking to residents in different areas, Tyndall, Wilkins, and the central waterfront, especially people who live in the condos, you know, I've had all kinds of range of estimates from the majority of people are from out of town to most of the people I talk to are actually from Barrie. And I think there can be assumptions around where people are from, and often those assumptions aren't correct. But it's good to know because we do know it's a third of the people, and that is a very significant number of people from outside of Barrie who are coming and parking and using our waterfront. So that to me supports the initiatives taken here and the amendments that General Committee has supported tonight. No, the other thing I wanted to mention was that what we haven't talked about at all is paragraph 6 of the motion, which is that paid parking in the downtown be suspended until mid-September. And this was mentioned in the economic recovery plan, but it's really worth noting. By approving this motion, members of General Committee tonight will be waiving all parking costs in the downtown for the balance of the summer. That will be to support the economic recovery of the downtown. It is certainly something we heard through the consultations on the recovery plan, and frankly, have been hearing for years. It comes at a cost. But in my opinion, a cost that is worth paying in support of the business community. So with that, Councillor McCann, you have a comment? Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. Sorry, I totally forgot about the fines. I think that it would be not good business like if we raise the daily to 10, raise the hourly to 10, the daily to 50. Thank you, Council, for that. But I think we need to obviously change the fines because if the fines are lower than the daily, then. So I'd like to put an amendment C that we raise the fines for C to $75 if people do not pay their parking, and for late payment to $100.
So Councillor McCann, paragraph 3A of the motion does increase it to 60. So that would be the one that you're amending. So as the amendment the motion that's on the floor right now would see the fine go from $30 to $60 for paid parking infractions in the waterfront. So did you want to amend that to be higher than 60?
Please, to 75.
To 75. Okay. So members of General Committee, we have an amendment to paragraph 3A to change the application. As we heard from the clerk off the hop, we have to apply to the province, but it would be to change it from $60 to $75. Comments or questions on that amendment? Councillor Kungl and then Councillor Aylwin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through to Councillor McCann. Did you have an opinion in mind around if that is being increased for the early fine, what the late fine would be? Was it 75 and 100? Could you rephrase that again? Okay. And we're then motioning on that separately or an amendment to both of those?
Sorry, thank you for catching that, Councillor Kungl. I got that wrong. I was only looking at the first paragraph. So yeah, we're going to need to do this differently. So 3A is the full fine, 3B is the early payment. You're quite right. Thank you for catching that. Councillor McCann, what did you want to do with each of those?
So for the early fine would be $75.
Okay.
And if they don't pay the fine, whatever period is now, which I think it's 15 days, I can't remember now, is $100.
Okay, so members of General Committee, that's $100 instead of 60 for the full fine in paragraph A, and $75 instead of 50 for the early payment amount in paragraph B. Thanks for that, Councillor Kungl. Did you wish to comment on that?
I did not, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Aylwin.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. I just want to ask Mr. Forsyth if that sort of increase to the fine is advisable. Is this what you typically would do with a parking rate increase? Is this proportional to what you would typically do normally?
Mr. Forsyth.
Thank you through Mayor Lehman to Councillor Aylwin. Yeah, definitely we would increase the fine as we're increasing the fees. The fine itself, again, there's a few different trains of thought, but if we're comparing ourselves to similar municipalities where our fees are now going to be similar, the fine is about $75 for the regular fine. So it would be in line. We don't think we're going to have an issue when we apply to the ministry, but it's still up to them to decide whether or not it's fair or not.
Thank you for that answer.
Okay, on the amendment, Councillor Harvey.
Just a quick question to Ms. McAlpine if she's on the call. I already kind of know the answer to this, but I think it's probably important that the public hear this also. If Ms. McAlpine can explain the rough cost of anybody that takes a simple parking ticket to court, because from what I understand, it's several $100s more than what any of these fines are that we're talking about.
Ms. McAlpine.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman, and to you and Councillor Harvey. So typically when a person takes a parking ticket to court, and if they were unsuccessful at defending their position versus the city's position in issuing the court, there may be additional fees that are incurred associated with that. So I think that's what Councillor Harvey is referencing, but I'm not 100% sure if that was his intent.
Actually, just to clarify, where I was kind of going with this is the true cost to operate the provincial offences court on a, let's say, a per ticket ratio is significantly higher than these fines that we're talking about. So anytime a fine does go to court, the city's actually losing several $100s. Is that correct?
Thank you for clarifying that, Councillor Harvey. So typically, if you are going to provincial offences court for a Part 2 or a parking ticket, and you are sitting before a justice of the peace, the municipality must pay for the justice of the peace's time, which is several $100s per hour. Depending on how many parking tickets you can process in an hour, you may not recover all of your costs, especially at our lower rates. So certainly any increase to the rates would assist in recovering the time for the justice of the peace, as well as the city staff time that are associated with scheduling the court.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Harvey. On the amendment, others who wish to speak? Okay, if none, I'll call the question. Those in favor of the amendment? Any opposed? Nobody opposed? Nope, that carries unanimously. Thank you. Any further comments, questions, debate on the motion as amended? Councillor Harvey.
Just one more amendment, Your Worship, and it was actually as a result of some of the clarification coming from Mr. Forsyth. I would propose that we add a 3C and that the seasonal non-resident pass increase from $90 to $130.
Okay, so that would be a new paragraph 3C to make the annual non-res pass $130. Pretty straightforward, I think. Did you want to speak to that anymore, Councillor Harvey?
I'll just be literally brief. It's just bringing everything in line with the other increases that we've already passed. I think it's only fair that everything go up proportionately.
Okay, thanks for that. The clerk is waving at me as best she can from a long way away. Madam Clerk?
We should actually be amending paragraph 4 and adding a 4C. because we're adjusting the fees bylaw, not the fines.
Thank you for that catch. Absolutely right. It is in our fees bylaw. So that would be an amendment 4C rather than 3C, new paragraph. Everybody clear on that, members of general? Any discussion around the new 130 amount? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. Those in favor? Any opposed? None? That carries. Thank you, Councillor Harvey, for catching that. Any other comments, questions, or amendments, members of General Committee? Okay, Councillor Kungle.
A quick comment that considering the topic of conversation in residents and knowing that at times I haven't had my pass with me or bothered to perhaps purchase another one that is available, I believe still at a $20 rate, hoping that there is perhaps some public communication with this as a reminder to our residents that should they have misplaced or lost their Barrie pass, that there is a process that's quite affordable, I believe, around a $20 reissuing of a pass, or if you need multiple passes as a household.
Thanks for that, Councillor Kungle. Absolutely. Any further debate or discussion, members of the General Committee? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question on the motion as amended. Please indicate if in favor. Any opposed? None. That carries. Thank you very much. The remaining item is a confidential item, and looking at the time, we're probably going to have to do that after recessing for Planning Committee, but why don't we try and sneak in inquiries and announcements? I'm just going to ask everybody to keep it super brief, though, otherwise we will have to recess and do inquiries and announcements later. So anybody with inquiries of staff, please indicate. Any inquiries of staff? Well, that'll keep it brief. Announcements. Deputy Mayor Ward, any announcements? Sorry, Deputy Mayor Ward, I think you're muted. I'm going to assume that means no. Councillor Aylwin and Councillor Kungle. Go ahead, Councillor Aylwin.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. I would just like to let residents of Ward 1 and Ward 2 know that coming up this Thursday, June 25th at 7 p.m., we're hosting a virtual town hall meeting. So it'll be Councillor Rietma, myself, and Mayor Jeff Lehman. So it's an opportunity for people in Wards 1 and 2 to ask questions, to bring concerns to us. And it is our first virtual town hall in this format, so hoping it goes well. And people can go to the city's website under the community events calendar to find the information for that town hall. Again, it's Thursday, June 25th at 7 p.m.
Thanks very much, Councillor Aylwin. Councillor Kungle.
Thank you. Two quick announcements, but ones that I wanted to draw some attention to around some exciting community initiatives happening. One is I had the pleasure of speaking with Victoria Butler, our Barrie Poet Laureate, and there is Poetry in the Garden happening. So we are bringing Victoria's poetry to you. You'll find that that will start to get posted online. We're going to start through the Barrie Urban Gardeners page, and we're going to ask residents if you have a space that inspires creativity, or you would like to bring your Poet Laureate into your garden space for a reading. We are going to look at opportunities to showcase some of her brilliant work and talent across the city. So I also invite fellow councillors. We'd love to showcase our poet across all wards of the city. But the second announcement is there was an event that happened today, and so I wanted to give some public awareness to our past mayor, Janice Laking. Received a dedication to a community garden today. Steve Jones with My Local Leaf is a local business that has looked at providing a community garden that's 15,000 square feet. Today, we had a lovely event where Janice received a dedication. And so I wanted to mention that because for those that don't know, it was Janice as our first point of, I think, being mayor in 1988 in working with Anne Black, that brought the Barrie Farmers Market to City Hall. And so I wanted to acknowledge that bit of history and thank her again for that legacy.
Thank you, Councillor Kungle. Absolutely. Councillor Rietma.
Yes, I just wanted to back up what Keenan Aylwin said, Councillor Aylwin. This Thursday, the 25th, 7 o'clock, a virtual town hall, Ward 1 and 2, and Your Worship, you'll be there as well. You'll be asked to answer all the hard questions, but certainly want to invite everybody that is interested to connect.
Thanks, Councillor Rittman. Yeah, that's why they pay me the big bucks. No, I appreciate that. And yes, we're looking forward. We have a number of people who've already registered from both wards 1 and 2. And if the format works well, I hope to be able to do this in all wards across the city with all ward councillors, as long as we need to not gather together. Any other announcements, members of General Committee? Okay, I'm going to keep it short with just a few in the interest of a brief recess before Planning Committee. June 27th, 2020 will be Barrie's Special Olympics Day here in the city. We wish we could celebrate together, but we are at least noting those contributions of our incredible Special Olympians from Barrie on Saturday. A reminder that Fairview Road is closed from Big Bay Point to just south of the en route. That is to put in the bridge over Highway 400, which will happen over the course of the summer. And by the fall, we all hope start making a huge difference in traffic in the south end. As the summer weather is now upon us, a reminder, of course, to residents that the emergency measures orders from the province and our bylaws are still in effect. The gatherings at the moment have to be limited to less than to 10 or less, and regulates the 2-meter physical distancing to help contain the spread. We did see some new cases in Barrie on Friday. We're not entirely through this yet, folks. And the very best thing you can do, of course, is wear a mask. If you cannot distance, or if you are out shopping inside anywhere, that is the guidance from all of our public health officials locally and provincially. Outdoor playground equipment, waterfront fitness equipment will remain closed until later stages of the province's reopening plan. Please do not take the caution tape off the play equipment. It is closed to ensure public safety. And a reminder that dogs aren't permitted to run at large. You got to keep them on a leash while in city parks. We've had a lot of complaints about this, I'm afraid, and had to issue some tickets. So please keep your dog on a leash if you're not in an off-leash park. Finally, I did want to note, thank you to our staff for two things in terms of reopening of facilities. The splash pads, after a little back and forth, we were able to get those open, and thank you. I know a number of our senior and operations staff worked late in the evening on Friday and then on the weekend to make that happen. Also, something I've been working on for weeks is to try and be able to safely offer some day camps. The city is going to be offering modified summer day camps. There is limited space. They will be held at several outdoor locations around the city. They will run daily from 8:30 till 4, and of course follow all the provincial and the health unit guidelines. The fee this year will be $199, and you can register at play.barrie.ca. Last, permits for sports fields are ready to be issued as of today. So if you are part of a sports organization that obtains permits for sports fields, please go to barrie.ca/sportsfields for more information and the online booking form. Members of council, I think there are a few of you with items from the circulation list that you're interested in, so I will just ask that before we recess. The June 15th circulation list, that's last week's circulation list. Any items from June 15th? Councillor Rittman.
Yes, item A4, that's Ms. Miller's report. I think we should have a discussion with that at next general committee.
Okay, sorry, I'm just calling up my circulation copy here. I think that was from the 22nd. Are you talking about Ms. Miller's on the minister's zoning order?
You're right, it's the 22nd.
Okay, I'll just call anything from the 15th, members of general committee. Nope, seeing none. Okay, Councillor Rittman, you would like the 22nd referred to general committee on the 29th next week?
Yes, please.
Okay, I will call the, sorry, we do need a vote on that, do we not? Yeah. So members of general committee, a referral of that item A4 to general committee on the 29th. Those in favor? Any opposed? None, that carries. Councillor McCann, circulation list, 22nd.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Lehman. It's concerning the Fisher Auditorium.
Okay.
I'd like to put the motion on the floor, and this is to refer a memo back to staff and reporting back after we receive the review the tourism master plan as indicated in the memo, and ask staff to include an alternative in the report for an exit strategy of the project, including but not limited to declaring the land surplus to the city needs and listing it for sale. And I can speak on that.
Okay, Madam Clerk, sorry, have you got the wording from Councillor McCann there? Okay, and so the memo's on tonight. This is to put an item on for next week. Sorry, Madam Clerk, go ahead.
I think, through you, Mayor Lehman, I believe Councillor McCann's intention is to have staff, to refer the memo back to staff to prepare a report in September after the tourism master plan is presented.
Okay, so it's to refer the memo back to staff with additional direction to include an option for an exit strategy. Councillor McCann, I think that was the language, including potentially surplusing the lands.
Yeah, exit strategy for the project, including but not limited to declaring the land surplus to the city needs and listing it for sale.
Okay, Madam Clerk, I'll just double check. Is that in order without a separate motion at General Committee? We can do that tonight on a circulation list item. Okay, so that's, because it's referring the matter back to staff. Okay, absolutely. Okay, members of council, it's a referral motion to send it back to staff.
I could talk on that if you don't mind, Jeff.
Referral motion is non-debatable. Sorry, Councillor McCann, that's one of the reasons I was checking. If you want to refer it for discussion, we can do that on the 29th, but a referral motion is not debatable.
Yep, I just want to explain why I'm doing this.
I would love to give you the chance, Councillor McCann, but it's not debatable, so we can't get into the reasons why or why not. If you want to put it on for next week, we'd be happy to talk about it then.
So if this gets voted down tonight, what's the procedure?
Well, the circulation list will still be on the agenda at council next week, so you could do something else with it at council next week.
Okay, well then, I mean, I have about a 1-minute spiel of why I think that it should go back to council, but if you're not going to permit me to say my my piece, then I will talk about my second appointment. So that the first phase is going to be to refer the motion back to staff to report back after we see the tourism master plan and look for an exit strategy to report, including but not limited to declaring the land surplus the city needs and the listing it for sale. The second part to this motion is to reach out to smart centers to see about a potential partnership if they truly do indeed want to bring a hotel to the city of Barrie. And if you're not going to allow me to speak on that and explain my rationale, then I guess I'll leave it at that.
Sorry, Councillor McCann, I didn't write the procedural bylaw. I mean, a referral motion is a referral motion. It's not debatable. But thank you for the second part. I guess, is that included in your motion that you want to refer now?
Correct.
Okay, so the wording, members of General Committee, as I understand it, let's see if I get this right, Councillor McCann. You are referring the memo back to staff, asking them to report back after the tourism master plan is complete, and when they report back, to give us a potential exit strategy from the project, including, if I remember right, surplusing and selling the lands. And then the second piece is to direct staff to talk to smart centers about the potential for a conference facility within their development. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and that's fine. I will rule that in order. I think part 2 is already happening, but that's great. So that's what's on the floor. It's not debatable. Members of General Committee, are you all clear on the direction that we would be giving staff? Okay, I'll call the question. Those in favor of the motion? And opposed? 2. Okay, that carries. Any other comments on the circulation list, members of General Committee? Councillor Kungl.
Thank you, Mayor Lehman. Just a quick point of note for those watching this evening. The circulation memo regarding the opening of the recreation centers. I'm not sure about fellow councillors. I've had a lot of residents interested in access to pools and other facilities. So I'd like to point everyone to the plan in place around a phased approach for East Bayfield. I think after Labor Day, July, I think is Holly, in Allendale is underway from a planning process. So some good information in there that may help residents to understand at least this now being in scope of reentry plan.
Yep. Okay. Thanks for that, Councillor Congo. And that's A8 on tonight's circulation list, which gives people a sense of when our rec centers are going to reopen and how. Any other comments on the circulation list, members of the General Committee? Okay, seeing none, the remaining matters confidential. I'm going to recess General Committee at 6:50. Unfortunately, you're going to have to log off. It can take about 2 minutes, and then please come right back and log back on. So we're ready to start Planning Committee in 10 minutes time. So General Committee is recessed, and we'll pick this up after Planning Committee.